So I've discovered it. This is the best strategy for lazy investors. If you want to set and forget your investments and not have to think about them ever again, then you need to look into index funds. With index funds, you can literally set up automatic transfers, and every single month, your money goes into your brokerage account. It goes into a well-diversified, historically proven investment, and you never have to look at it again. Index funds are absolutely amazing, and here is why. Because when you buy an index fund, you're actually buying a pool of companies. Things like Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Tesla, all these massive companies in the market. And you can think about index funds this way. Think about a jar of marbles. Yeah, I know, a jar of marbles. Think about buying one marble, which represents a company, and hoping that company makes enough money and enough cash flow for you to be able to retire. Or you could buy the entire jar of marbles, which is the entire stock market, and be able to reap the benefits of all those companies all in one trade. This is the reason why the greatest investor of all time, Warren Buffett, recommends index funds to every single person who is not a professional investor. The reason why is this is a set it and forget it system. In fact, Warren plans on putting all his family's money in index funds, an S&P 500 index fund to be exact, when he passes away. That's how much the greatest investor of all time believes in index funds. So what's so great about index funds? Well, they're well diversified, meaning you're casting a wide net across a bunch of different stocks, and great companies at that. If you buy an S&P 500 index fund or a total stock market index fund, all of those are fantastic. They also have very low fees. And if you've ever watched this channel, you know that fees will absolutely kill you. So making sure that you control your fees within your investments is extremely important. And lastly, index funds have attractive returns. Since 1929, the S&P 500 has returned 10%. These are attractive long-term returns that with small amounts of money over time can make you a millionaire. So what are my 5 favorite index funds to invest in? The first one is Fidelity's Zero Large Cap Index Fund. This is FNILX. And one of the best things about this Fidelity fund is it has 0 fees, a 0% expense ratio. And this is very similar to an S&P 500 index fund. But what Fidelity does is they track almost the same exact thing as this S&P 500. They just don't call it an S&P 500 index funds because they don't want to pay the hefty fee price tag that goes with putting the S&P 500's name on your fund. And they pass that savings down to you with a 0% expense ratio. So that means with a 0% expense ratio, you pay $0 for every $10,000 invested. And free is my favorite number. The second one is Vanguard's 500 Index Admiral shares. This is VFIAX. And this index fund invests in the S&P 500. And this is one of the largest index funds in the country with hundreds of billions of dollars within the fund. Now, the expense ratio of this fund is 0.04%. So that means every $10,000 invested, you would pay $4 every single year. And if you prefer ETFs, there's also an ETF that Vanguard offers called VOO, and it will have similar to close to the same returns as this does. And if you haven't checked out our video where we talk about the top 5 ETFs, I'll leave a card up here so that you can check out that video as well. Number 3 is the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund. And the ticker symbol for this one is VTSAX. And what VTSAX does is it encompasses the entire stock market, from small cap companies to mid cap companies to large companies. There's all different types of companies within this fund. And this has one of the longest track records as well for index funds. And it's one of the most respected index funds in the industry. You'll see a lot of people within the FIRE movement investing in this index fund as well because it's been around for a very long time. And the expense ratio on this one is also 0.04%. So that means every $10,000 invested, you pay $4 annually. That's a very low expense ratio if you compare that to, say, actively managed funds, where they charge you well over 1% annually to invest in their funds. Some other great funds that do this same thing is you could look at Fidelity's Zero Total Stock Market Index Fund, which is FZROX. or you could look at Vanguard's ETF, which is VTI. Both of those are fantastic and will have very similar returns to this as well. Number 4, if you're a SCHWAB investor, you can look at SCHWAB's S&P 500 index fund. And the ticker symbol for that one is SWPPX. Now, this is going to perform very similar to a lot of the other index funds of the S&P 500 index funds, where it tracks the S&P 500. And this one has a very low expense ratio as well, at 0.02% expense ratio. So for every $10,000 invested, you're going to pay $2 per year. And the last one is VGT, or Vanguard's Technology ETF. And this is a very cool ETF that actually tracks the technology sector. And I'm extremely bullish on technology in the long run. I think a lot of people are. If you look at companies like Apple or Microsoft or anything like that, you think that they're going to do well in the long run. So some of the biggest companies in this fund are Microsoft, Apple, Intel, companies that power what we do every single day. Now, one thing to note is this fund does not include things like Facebook or Google, and those are companies that I do like to see in my portfolio, but most of these S&P 500 index funds and total stock market index funds do cover those companies heavily. In fact, Apple and Microsoft actually make up 36% of this fund, which is something you want to see. And it has a very low expense ratio at 0.01%, meaning every $10,000 that you have invested into VGT is going to be $1 per year. So listen, I hope you guys enjoyed this video on some of my favorite index funds. Make sure you do your research into some of these so that you can see if these would fit your investment plan as well. And if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell as well. And we'll see you on the next video.